Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Cinema Sitdown. Today we watched a childhood favorite of mine, Ernest Scared Stupid. I'm Thomas Delzai, and I am here with...
I'm Jordan.
I'm Kayla.
I'm Cass.
I'm Jess.
And we will talk to you again right after this intro. Welcome back. As mentioned before, today we watched Ernest Scared Stupid, released in 1991. I wanted to try and keep with the recent Halloween theme, but have a little bit less of an actual horror tone and go maybe with something a little bit campier, which I think that we'll all agree this movie definitely is. I feel like this is the kind of movie where you either love it or you hate it. So right off the bat, I am very intrigued to see what your guys' thoughts are on this movie.
I will immediately contradict you on that. I just kind of feel like it's just kind of there.
Just kind of there?
Like, it's all right. I don't have any, like, love or hate. It's a cool movie. That's my initial thoughts.
Anyone else?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I love spooky movies, but I'm also kind of a wuss. So I get scared easily, and I love just cute Halloween movies. The jokes were funny. Some of them you're like, saw that coming. Some of them were still hilarious. I just thought it was so cute. I loved it.
I thought that this was very, as you said, camp.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that about it. I love all the decorations and all the scenes. The practical effects were super cool. I liked how it was like serious, but like also it's not really that serious. It's like giving the Killer Clowns in Outer Space vibes, kind of, but like in the woods.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. And I enjoyed it for that reason.
I think one of my favorite things, I noticed for a split second that Yzma, one of my favorite characters from The Emperor's New Groove, her voice just sounded like the old lady that was in the movie. What was her name again?
Old lady something?
Something with an H.
It's okay, we'll just
Old
call
lady.
her old lady,
Hackmore.
creepy old
Old
lady
lady
or
Hackmore.
something.
Yeah, that's Hackmore. There we go.
Hackmore, there you go. Her voice sounded just like Yzma.
So you touched on something that I really wanted to get into, which is the practical effects in this movie. So as I mentioned before, this movie came out in 1991, and it has some special visual effects that were done, computer generated or just hand drawn, whichever, I don't really know. But almost all of the effects is very special effect heavy, is practical effects. So one of the big things in it is the troll is the main villain of this movie. And it is not like most things I've seen, especially in movies like this where they have some kind of horror thing. A lot of times I'm thinking like the T-Rex in Jurassic Park is essentially, there's a big robot arm behind it that makes the whole thing move. But this was, from what I could tell, just a guy in a costume.
For real.
With a lot of makeup on.
Yes.
And I think that there's a special charm to doing things that way where it feels very loose. And obviously you can tell that it's not quite real, but also it definitely fits that category of this. Yeah. This could be
I'm going to agree
real.
with you there. Sorry for interrupting. But,
No, you're good. Take it away.
I feel like that's something that popped in my head when I was watching. I was thinking, like, if this were made today, they wouldn't have gone that route. They would have just CGI animated it, put it in, that's it. But I feel like it wouldn't have had the same charm, per se, of, like, what they did with, like, the slime effects and all that. Like, I don't think it would have looked the same, and it wouldn't have felt the same as it did in this movie. And I think it worked for this movie.
Yeah. I definitely think that's the case too, because you have a lot of movies now where the CGI and actors are like struggling to act across from something that's not really there, whereas here they definitely had Jim Varney, who I also want to talk about here in just a second, who plays Ernest P. Worrell, just straight kiss, as he likes to call him, snot lips directly on the.
That was too much for me. I hate.
Yeah, that was one
snot.
thing I was
Like,
just like,
all the bodily fluids, it has to be the worst,
This
and it's
is-
disgusting.
This is definitely a movie where if you don't like snot, can't say I recommend watching it.
Sorry, Cass.
Yeah, I was struggling. I had a snack and I had to put it down. I was like, I can't deal with this.
Kind of ruined your lunch, huh?
Real.
For sure. So the use of special effects as well, there were some other things that they had, such as one of the main effects in the movie is that when the troll, I guess, captures children, he'll turn them into a wooden doll. And there's a couple instances there where they have, just like a jump cut and they hide it with maybe like a flash special effect where it goes from being the actual kid to wood. But I was just thinking, like, that must take like a lot of production value to make an actual sculptor for each of your actors that you want to have turned into it, including the dog as well.
Yeah, that's something I actually really admired. Like, you gotta carve that stuff, and you have to like put attention to detail. You have to have the actors pose for you. Like, they probably took a picture, but still, like, that takes a lot.
I was curious as to what the budget for this was because
point.
when the OG troll came out, I was like, wow, this practical effects, they spent some money on this, this looks great. And then when all the other trolls started popping out of the ground, they looked equally as good.
Yeah.
And so I love practical effects, especially in horror. I think it's just, they just play off so much better than like the CGI things. And they put money into it, which made it look even better. And they were gross and nasty, so.
But the guy in the suit was having fun, though.
Oh yeah, I think it's interesting too that the main troll, there's only one troll up until the very end of the movie in which he essentially does a ritual to summon his children. I think it's implied.
He was calling them like kids, but it was like also his army, and it was like.
Yeah, I was kind of weird about it.
Yeah.
But the main troll was, if you're looking at it from a makeup perspective, a guy wearing a mask. But the only thing that you could see of him was his eyes. The troll's head was probably, this big.
Huge.
But all you could see was his eyes. And I feel like that especially helps sell the effect. Because a lot of the other ones later on, they just have a painted over eyes that can't move. Or even if you do have puppet eyes, it doesn't capture the depth that a real eye
Human eyes
can hold.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, I apologize, I have notes down here.
You're just ignoring us to look at
your I just had to check. No, so I was curious what your guys' thoughts of two things from the actual production side of things is the lighting and camera work in this movie I paid a special attention to.
I loved it. It was like so comic booky. I loved how many like Dutch side angles they had, and the colors that they would use were so fun. And then he would just like dress up as random characters, which was giving like Scooby-Doo energy.
It was.
I loved that. I like when real movies that are supposed to be real life feel very comic book or cartoony, but they're still based in reality. So they did really well with that.
For me, there were so many times where like the camera angle was in such a way I was just like, oh, this is gonna happen. Oh, this is gonna happen. Like when the troll disappeared, and after he ran over it with his truck, and then it disappeared. And they're like, where'd the troll go? And the camera was showing it in such a way where it didn't show underneath the truck. So my thought process was he was hanging on underneath the truck, which, by the way, not what happened. I have no idea where he actually came from because he just fell from the sky.
Yep.
But that camera angle there made me think like he's gonna be on the truck. There were so many things it tricked me, and I kind of like that actually. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I liked it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I like that, whether it was intentional or not. I think there's a lot of scenes like that where they kind of make you expect it's going to be like, there's a whole scene where the troll's like, oh, is there something under the bed? And it kind of baits you. It shows you a shot beforehand of nothing being there. And then when we go back to it, there really is nothing there. There is, of course, a threat in the room still. It ends up being in the bed next to the girl, but...
He's really good at hiding.
Yeah.
I want to know how he does that. Like, yeah, he's shorter than the average person because he's a troll, but like, big mask.
Yeah.
Real.
He's not exactly quiet either.
Exactly. He's always like going, ah.
But I also think it's funny too because, I mean, you mentioned it before I even got around to it, but this movie treats its characters, specifically Ernest in particular, like a cartoon, like a comic book. It treats him in a way, I mean, in the first 10 minutes of the movie, he gets squashed into a trash cube, and then his feet are poking out next to his head. People don't fold like that, and yet he was totally fine. It treats a real human man like Wile E. Coyote. And I think that's a very interesting thing that I don't think a lot of genres do that much anymore.
Yeah, they kind of they play it very realistic, which is natural, but it's kind of fun to be like the bear trap that he had, the giant one. He would have gotten sliced in half, and he's like, I'm good, just walked it off.
That's another thing,
It's
like with
funny.
the. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
It's another thing with the camera too. Like they didn't show that because I guess they didn't know how he would escape from that. They just you heard it close, and he's like, you hear from him from off camera. He's like, help me! He's yelling at the dog or whatever. Unless I looked away and didn't see that.
No, all it shows is a shot of his hat being flown back towards
exactly,
the dog.
like
it's like, oh, the trap got him,
Yeah,
and that's the
trap
extent
got
of
him.
it. It doesn't really. It's a horror movie at surface value that is both scary, but it isn't. If you've ever seen the trailer for this movie, I highly suggest you watch it, especially if you haven't seen the movie, because it's shot and edited, or cut and edited like a horror movie. There's no hint that it's really a comedy.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it's cut like you would expect just like a slasher movie to be edited. And I think that might be the funniest part about the entire movie, is because I was trying to pitch it to you guys to be like, oh, I think this is the movie that I want to do, and I was like, wait, this looks actually scary. This isn't Ernest. This is a horror movie.
I wonder if like people, when this came out, went to see it in theaters thinking it was a horror movie because they had only seen that one trailer.
Well,
and how disappointed they would have been.
So the character of Ernest is one that is used between multiple movies.
Oh, right, cinematic universe.
Not quite in the cinematic universe way, especially not in the way that we know it now, but more in like I think they did the similar thing with like Pee Wee Herman, where they have almost like a cartoon reset at the end of the movie. You know, in this movie, Ernest Scared Stupid, Ernest is playing. He's a trash collector who really loves his job. Those two things are usually consistent between his characters. He has a job and he really, really loves it. And maybe it's not the greatest circumstances, but he makes the most of it. And then he gets thrown into some ridiculous scenario in which the whole running joke is, oh, this guy's an idiot. No one should listen to him. And then 9 times out of 10, or because it's a movie, 10 times out of 10, he ends up being right, and ends up saving the day in some way, doing the right thing. And I think that's really interesting because it's almost like a Saturday morning cartoon, but on a big budget Hollywood format. So I'm really interested to see what your guys' thoughts are on that kind of dynamic.
Of reusing the same kind of. Well, I think he plays his character really, really well. Like so overly expressive. Really dives into the wild side of Ernest for sure. And to be able to reuse that character over and over again, he can really blend into any surrounding because he's just always gonna be over dramatic in being himself, and that really fits in basically any scenario you could write in. So I love that.
Yeah. The expressiveness of him, like it further fuels the cartoon character because normal people don't make a face like that. Normal people don't like stretch their everything.
He's so overly animated in the way that he plays
and it
his
really
character.
helps fuel the cartooniness of it. Plus that one bit at the end where like he was stuck in the barrel, they redid that gag where he fell down the stairs like 3 times. You don't do that in real life. Well, maybe this guy would, but that feeds into it.
I appreciate some of the campy editing tricks and stuff like that, where they're like, I don't think they reused the same shot exactly, but they did at the very beginning. He gets stuck in the back of the trash truck, and it's a whole sequence where he's trying to escape as it's closing in on him, and then they show the shot where like it starts moving. And then he's in there for like 2 minutes, and then they show the shot of it still moving it's the exact same shot as before. So it's like, it's this super huge threat, but it's still taking forever. And I think it's a very interesting way to tell a story where at the end of the day, it's a pretty serious story.
Real.
You know, the trolls are gonna kill everyone, kill the children and the adults maybe. Did they ever establish that they would do that? They were just kind of chasing them around.
They were trying to, I was gonna say, they were trying to take over the world or whatever, but the trolls weren't very good at that. And then the second that all the adults showed up, this movie made the adults look like idiots too, which I always think
honestly,
is
the only adult that died is the guy got hit in the head with a bowling ball. Like, let's be real, he is dead.
Yeah, that one's tough.
He got absolutely clunked right on the top of the head. No, there's no coming out of that one.
There isn't.
So another thing that I thought was interesting is the use of lighting, specifically colored lighting. This movie, unlike most I've seen, has a pretty big disregard for trying to justify its lighting. One scene in particular that I'm thinking of is at one point he sets up a troll trap, which is essentially just a dumpster, and 2 of the bully kids get caught in it. Yeah. He's going to reveal to the sheriff and the mayor, oh, I caught the troll that you guys have been hearing about but haven't seen any real evidence of. And then it's just the 2 knucklehead kids. And when they open the back of the truck, there's just an inexplicable bright light and fog coming out of this truck for this dramatic reveal.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you had a movie now, the way that they would probably do this is they would take the character, whoever's coming out of the back, and they would hide it in darkness up until it gets out, and then it's revealed. But here it's just straight up saying, no, we're going to silhouette this and just put a light here. Why? Who cares? Same thing when he's going through his multiple personalities.
Yes, I loved every time they cut to that and it would be all the different personalities.
Yeah.
That made me laugh every single time. I was appreciative too because sometimes they would use it for like a couple seconds. He's got to get his hair done, his makeup done. Sometimes he had nails on. Like he was committed, and so was the crew. Loved that.
I'm also surprised they only did the gag twice.
Yes, that feels like
Yeah.
something that it felt like if it were just there once, it would have felt very out of place. But the fact that they did bring it back at least one other time, I felt justified it more. I wish that we saw a little more of it though.
Did they do it in other Ernest movies? Probably.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There's a cinematic universe.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how many. I know of at least like 3 or 4 more that are all starring the same character of Ernest, but doing different jobs and having various different responsibilities. I don't know if the multiple personalities thing, I can't remember off the top of my head if that was something that they brought back. Usually there's an animal companion that he's very fond with. In this one, there's the dog Rimshot.
Wait, you're saying the dog doesn't go with them? It's just
No.
this one movie?
I remember there's another one called Ernest Goes to Camp where he has a turtle. I don't remember the turtle's name, but it fills a very similar role of like being his only real companion.
I was about to start saying like 0 to 10, no dog, but he's got a turtle. Now we're talking.
Yes.
Something I'm impressed with Ernest about is his ability to invent things.
Yes.
And the budget that he somehow has to invent these things, and the speed at which he can also build. Because that treehouse went up in one day.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true.
And that was a big
And it was
treehouse.
accessorized. It had a theme. They had weapons. Like, that to me is impressive.
And sorry, continue.
Oh no, it's okay. I wanted to say that my favorite part was the dog just driving the car.
I have a note written down.
Animals to me are the best actors, especially dogs. They're
Real.
they're so cute.
Yeah, that dog was really well trained.
Yeah, it was very well trained, I gotta say.
As in, like both in and out of the context of the movie.
Real.
Yeah,
Because-
it takes a lot of time to do that for a cat or a dog.
Yeah. In the movie, he's giving him instructions like, okay, put it in reverse, and the dog's like, okay, and puts the car in reverse. But then on top of that, that dog had to actually do that. That's a real
Right,
dog that's
yeah.
actually putting that truck in reverse.
Yeah.
Like we saw his paw push the thing down.
Right.
Yeah, and it's really cool what they came up with, especially back in that timeline. I mean, old movies are classic, very classy.
So you touched a little bit on something else that I wanted to mention is that I've noticed, I think this is a bigger theme in cartoon-style movies, so it goes back to that point as well. But I wrote down stupid characters are generally speaking capable of doing a lot.
They are
Yeah.
superhuman,
Like-
real.
Exactly.
They talk about he's like this big idiot, but like he still made a helicopter that drops milk bombs.
Yeah.
Like
Out of what? Like some balloons in a mailbox?
I couldn't do that.
And it had cow print on it.
Yeah.
It
I
already
noticed
was
that too.
decorated.
Yeah, like
little cow print.
this is premeditated. He knew the trolls were coming. He did it on purpose so he could use the thing.
It's all Ernest's master plan. Yeah, I mean, his very introduction as a character is like, every generation gets dumber and dumber. So it's like, it's this character who's dumb as rocks, and then it's like, what's he done? He's invented a system to, I don't know what it was supposed to do, but it's like a bunch of mops. It looks like the
Yeah.
front of a combine where it's rotating in and out
like,
of trash
yeah,
cans.
it fell apart, but the fact that he did it in the first place and
Right.
it was working for a little while.
Like maybe he's an inventor is what he is. Give him a budget and he'll make one that doesn't throw mops at him.
Yeah.
Real.
Which also thought it was just the shot of someone, it was clearly just someone on set throwing a wet mop at the
I
man.
wonder how much that guy got paid.
Oh, probably more than we will. But yeah, kind of wrapping up, do you guys have any final thoughts about this movie?
I love when they break the fourth wall. I've seen it done in movies where it's not good and it doesn't fit, but I feel like it fits so well. And it's just, you get to see his inner monologue, kind of talking. Sometimes he's talking like, I don't know what we're going to do. Or he's like talking to himself. I love when that happens. It was done perfectly. I
Wait,
liked
where do you
it.
break the fourth wall? Did I not notice
It's like
that?
a bunch of times.
Okay.
Not like a bunch of times, but he would just randomly like be doing something and he'd like turn and be like, so we have to. Yeah, that
okay.
kind of thing.
I get it.
I love when that's done.
I'd say it's a decent movie after all, for me at least. I did enjoy a lot of the slapstick. I will say one thing I'm a little angry about. They didn't really use the crazy old lady character that much, whose name we keep forgetting. I like characters like that. I think they're fun. But they barely used her. They didn't explain why her sister was from colonial era. They didn't use that character, and I'm a little upset. They used the kids more than they used her.
It's very true.
I also very much enjoyed this film. I love the cartoony look to it. I always like when movies do that and don't take themselves so serious when they're in very serious situations. So I would recommend this if you're in for a campy, fun time. It's a good watch. And your kids would like it.
Oh, for sure.
Real.
Yeah.
Jess?
Well, I gotta say, I agree with everything you've said so far. I agree that it's very funny. It's a Halloween movie, and it just has a little bit of everything. It's it's also a really good classic, and you can't go wrong with a classic.
Run a little bit at a time, but final ratings.
Ooh, 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
I'm gonna give it a 6.
6. I think I'm going to give it a 7. It probably wouldn't score as high. Definitely better for kids. But the production value of this movie makes me appreciate it a lot more.
Because of production 7.
I'm gonna go with like maybe a little more than 7. I don't know. I'm just gonna give it that.
7.5.
7.5. There you go.
And with that, that is all the time that we have today. Thank you very much for watching. I have been Thomas on Cinema Sitdown. I'm here with, again,
Jordan.
I'm Kayla.
Cass.
Jess.
and Will. What's the quote? How about a bumper sandwich, booger lips? We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.